Welcome into the I-80 Boys College Football Week 2 Saturday show. Chris, how are you doing today, buddy?
Not bad, my guy. It is Saturday, week 2. Decent game. Excuse me, I can't talk this morning. Decent games on this slate. Yeah, big one tonight. Nebraska, Colorado. We got Michigan and Texas this morning. Game day is going to be there. That should be a really good game. Christian, we got some NC State, Tennessee, man. So I'm excited for those games. Probably not every single matchup in the world that you would particularly love today, like it was last week, but no, I'm doing good, bro. Like I said, any Saturday is a good day when it's college football season, bro.
Oh yeah, man. Well, that's good. Listen, I got to get this out. Somebody pointed it out. Right. Okay, there we go. Now I don't have to say right anymore in this show.
Yes.
Yes. Good. No, I'm doing pretty good myself. It's Saturday. You know what I mean? It's like we talked about, right? There's some games on today that are going to be pretty good. Obviously, we talked about Texas, Michigan. We talked about Tennessee. Playing NC State. We got Nebraska, Colorado. So there's a lot of good games on today. I feel like outside of that, there's a lot of undercard games that might get swept under the rug, like the Oklahoma State Arkansas game, the Kentucky South Carolina game, the one that probably neither one of us will stay up and watch, but we'll read about tomorrow, the Oregon Boise State game. Like that one's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I agree. I would throw the K-State at Tulane game in there as well today. I know Tulane a couple years ago had a really good team. Didn't have a bad team last year, lost a lot of pieces too, but they beaten K-State a couple times in their history. So that game ought to be pretty good today. I know a lot of people probably aren't going to, watch that one necessarily, but you're right. Yeah, tonight, Oregon, Boise State. Oregon favored by 20, man. Boise State's one of those teams people have been talking about, potential college football playoff team.
That's true. I mean, it's a good day, Chris. What did you say you were eating tonight for the tailgate?
Oh, I got some cheese dip, some good stuff that the girlfriend makes. I'm excited about that. Yeah, no, I'm pumped, man. You got to have good food when you're watching the Huskers play, man. I mean, that's anything I got to do. You know what I mean? If I got to run around naked after the game when we win, if that's a new ritual, I'll do it. I'll do anything to beat Colorado, Christian, and I almost mean anything. So, I'm pumped, bro.
One of my favorite moments, and I know this is when you recorded yourself last year when you guys played Michigan.
Oh, Jesus.
And just watching you get angry. And I remember last week, I think it was early in that game, UTEP I think it scored a touchdown or something like that. And it had knotted the game up and they were getting stops or whatever have you. And at a certain point early in that game, and all I could think about was, damn, man, Chris might as well just get a job at a phone store at this point.
Dude. Yeah, if you haven't checked that short out, holy shit. Yeah, well, I wasn't and I'm going to be honest with you, man. I might be on freaking a milk carton tomorrow if we lose tonight. I might be you might not see me for a while. We need this win, man. Everybody knows my dislove for Colorado. So this is a huge game today. A lot of recruits here for Nebraska too today, obviously. So like I said, big game today. But speaking of which, a big game, Georgia, any potential upset alert for who the hell are you guys playing today?
Tennessee Tech. I feel like it would. Here's the thing. What is that spread? 54?
54.5. Yeah.
54.5. I don't think we'll cover. As crazy as that is to say, I think we talked about it, man. I don't. Kirby doesn't want to run the score up on anybody. He wants to get the game in hand early, take the starters out, put the second and third string guys in there. I mean, just kind of do his thing, right? So, I don't think Georgia covers in that one. I do think we win pretty decently. I don't even know if I'm going to watch the game. As crazy as that is to say, again, as we find out every week here on the show, every FCS school is a top 10 team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you should celebrate that, right? You should celebrate the wins over, North Dakota State. You should celebrate your wins over Chattanooga, Tennessee Tech, UT, whoever, right? I mean, so you got to celebrate the little things in life.
Absolutely. But yeah, with that being said, no, I'm excited, guys. Like I said, appreciate you guys, all you guys joining. Like I said, I'm excited today, though. Some good football on today if you're a college football fan. So,
Chris, we'll jump into some of the comments here. Kansas, Illinois should be a decent game. Yeah, I agree with that, Mike. I think that's going to be a pretty good one, too. Both these schools, I think, look pretty decent in their week one games. Like Illinois actually went out, put up some points with Altmaier. Brett Bielema, I like him as a coach. Bielema to me is a little bit like the Greg Schiano at Rutgers, if you will, right? Just a guy that wants to coach hard-nosed football. They're a team that I feel like kind of like Northwestern, and we'll get to them in a minute. Whenever they have expectations, that's when they shut the bed. When there's nothing expected of them, they rise to the occasion.
No, I 100% agree. And Kansas on the other side, high expectations for this team this year. Their schedule's relatively easy. They got the Daniels kid back. Who's the kid at running back? Devin Neal, is that his name? He put up some big numbers last year. Kansas should be a really good team. This should be a really good game. If anybody watched it last year, I'll never forget because I bet on it. Kansas beat the absolute dog shit out of Illinois last year. So I think there's a little revenge factor. I think this game will be pretty close today.
Absolutely. Zach Gleason says, I got to manage the clock and keep Shedeur on the sidelines today. I agree 100%. Don't give him the ball if you can avoid it, right? That's the one thing. As some Colorado fans pointed out, I mean, hey, I don't know. They might try to run the ball 50 times today. They did say that the offense and defense that we saw against North Dakota State, which is the same offense and the same defense we saw all of last year, and frankly, the same offense and same defense we saw at other places, such as Jackson State, is going to be completely different going into this game. So, hey, who knows?
Yeah, don't get me started on the Colorado fan base over there, especially the Dion stands. Holy shit. Yeah, that was some interesting. If you guys haven't checked out some of the comments in there, check out our video on that, by the way. There's some interesting stuff going on in the Colorado psyche.
Over 100 and some odd comments in that one, man. So that's a good place to start if you get bored before this game that kicks off at what time? Like 6:30 tonight or some shit. So
absolutely.
Hey, I want to talk about this. Indiana beat the brakes off of was it Western Illinois?
Yeah, I did watch a little bit of that, Christian, last night. I know there were some more marquee games on than that one, but Indiana kind of surprisingly, nobody's expected much out of them this year. We were a little higher on them than most shows, ESPN, anybody you name. They put up a lot of points. Indiana of all schools, man.
The Gophers get they get their running back back. Minnesota gets their running back back here against the University of Rhode Island. Shouldn't make a difference. The Max Brosmer experiment against UNC did not look great. We'll just say that, but that's okay, right? That is okay. Minnesota, they want to run the ball. They want to control the clock. They want to be physical, right? That's what PJ Fleck and them always kind of want to do. So they kind of need that, I think, to get their season back on track. So good for Minnesota for getting their running back back.
Yeah, Taylor's a pretty good back, man.
You see this? I feel like a talk show host. You see this? You hear about this? Stallions. Connor Stallions, man. Hey, if you haven't watched the documentary, me and Chris, obviously Chris talked about this before we got on the show. You really do feel bad for Connor Stallions if you come out of that watching that. He was kind of the fall guy. He's just a really smart guy, loved Michigan football, would give anything, give his right arm for that program. And he almost did. But he basically became a defensive coordinator at a Michigan high school while he's serving I think 2 or 3 year suspension from college football. Again, I don't know even after that suspension if he'll have a real shot to get back into the college ranks or not. That'll be interesting to see. But the coach had a medical issue, so they named him the interim head coach, and they ended up losing 49-6. So I kind of hate that for the guy, right? I kind of came out of that documentary rooting for Connor Stallions.
No, I did too. If you guys get the time, check that out, by the way. I think he got got a really bad rap out of all that. And if you listen to the documentary and him actually publicly speak about it for the first time, because he pretty much went, AWOL. I mean, you didn't see him for the last year after all this shit happened, essentially. Like he's a pretty smart dude, pretty good documentary, man. And Christian said it best, man. You want to talk about a fan who loves their program? Holy shit, dude. This guy is all about Michigan.
Alabama, Caden Proctor, starting left tackle, shoulder. He is doubtful. And again, I saw him last week on the sidelines, kind of like that, all game with a sling on. So they're playing USF, the Bulls. If you want to go back and look at the 3-episode old school NCAA football thing that I put out, I kind of predicted that, before it happened last year. But whatever. Here's the thing, Chris. Does USF really have a shot in this game? Does it even matter? I mean, last year it was a close game. Milroe didn't play in the game. I think they were whatever. I don't know. Outside of that, I mean, thoughts really on that? Does that affect this game? I guess.
I don't think so. This kid's obviously a stud, but no, I
Mhm.
don't. I think Bama handles business today, Christian. I do. I think they go out and Jalen Milroe's a lot better quarterback now than he was. He didn't play in that game. I don't think last year. I think he was benched if I'm not mistaken. And there was a not that I don't get stuck on why teams lose games because of weather, but I know there was a bunch of weather delays. The weather was shitty in that game. That was the game where me and you kind of pointed at Alabama and laughed at them last year, like, what the hell are they doing? Nick Saban got a hold of that, changed some things, and holy shit, the trajectory after that was way different for that team. But no, Alabama, too much talent, better team, better coach. They get it done today.
Chris, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah.
That's becoming a more and more prevalent thing in college football that I feel like we never used to see, right? Like weather delays, right? You know what I'm saying? I know we're not meteorologists out here and shit, but I watched that happen, 3 or 4 times, last week with all the weather and stuff. And what are your thoughts on it? Do you think it should happen? Do you think they should just play through it?
I get if there's lightning in the area, I understand that one being in the job field that I was in for a lot of years in renewables, but like I understand that part if there's lightning, but like it seems like the delays now, like they've increased the time limit. So like if you have a lightning strike, it used to be like 15 minutes or something like that, 20. Now they've like keep extending that out and the distance of lightning from the stadium, for example, right? I mean, you don't want to see anybody get killed or hurt because of weather. I understand that. But man, there was a lot of rain delays, weather delays last week. I hope that doesn't happen. Kind of sucks. You talked about, alluded to the West Virginia Penn State game, right? I mean, that halftime was like 3 hours long at least,
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me when I was in the military, Chris, I was a combat medic. And I remember the first half of it, you go through and you learn the civilian side of medicine. So you basically become an advanced EMT. You got to go take the national registry, everything like that. One of the first things they teach you the very first day is you have to make sure that when you arrive to whatever situation you're at, your scene always has to be safe. It's the very first thing they teach you, right? About you got to be safe before you can start treating anybody else, right? And I remember after after that, after you graduate from that part after about 3 months and you go over to the military side of it, and the very first day you get there, they say, forget all that shit you just learned over there. Doesn't matter. Everybody kind of looked around and they were like, well, why? And they were like, because if you're on a battlefield, it isn't going to be safe. Like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Right.
I don't know. I guess in a weird way, I try to apply that to this, and I agree with you. I do think that we need to make sure players are safe, but in this world, in this day and age where people are wearing Guardian caps, and 5 years from now, where they're going to be set inside a bubble, I don't really know if I'm like 100% sold on that. I think you should obviously make sure the weather's safe, but if it's just rain and that's what we're doing here, I mean, this isn't baseball for Christ's sakes. The weather has to play into it a little bit.
Right. No, when it comes to rain and wind and all that, no, that's why football is the sport that it is, right? It's muddy, it's gritty, it's tough. Man, I love those kind of games. I know over here in Nebraska, you watch like the Kansas City Chiefs play or, in the playoffs and stuff, it's 10 below, right? We played a game in high school, believe it or not, still the coldest game ever played here when I was a junior. It was minus 32 real feel outside. I mean, it was so freaking cold, bro. It was unbelievable. But that's what makes football fun, right? I mean, that's part of it, playing in the elements. I'm not saying the lightning thing, I understand absolutely 100%.
Yeah, I agree with that too. The lightning thing is it's a kind of a tough dichotomy there. I feel like, Max Johnson, UNC quarterback, plans to return in 2025. Chris, if you're a betting man, does he come back to UNC, or do you think was it Montreal Herald is the other guy there? Whatever their other guy is, he's a young. Go ahead.
No, you're right. I don't think he comes back. I mean, this guy has played on LSU, A&M. Now he's UNC. He'll be one of these dudes that's going to have like 8 years of college football experience. And I'll be honest with you, dude, I'm not trying to shit on the kid. I don't wish that anybody gets hurt. But watching him play against Minnesota last week, he doesn't look any better. You know what I mean? He's been around college football for how many years, Christian?
It's been about 7 or 8 years.
He's been around a long time. He's just so injury prone too.
I mean, my thing is, obviously he plans to return in 2025. I don't know if it's going to be at UNC or if he's going to be kind of a mercenary or something like that. I'll tell you a spot he might go to. Speaking of guys that have been around forever, Utah.
Oh, go take over for the Cam Risings last year there finally and put him over there. Max
Yeah.
Johnson, though, don't hold a candle to Cam Rising, though, as far as talent wise. But I do feel bad for the kid. You're right. I do. I don't think he'll be at UNC. He barely won out the job this year over the guy that you were just talking about. They didn't release that information up until the game. I remember that when it came down to betting purposes. I'm like, holy shit, who's the quarterback for UNC? And Mac Brown wouldn't release that information.
No. Mac Brown, one of only 3 active coaches right now in college football to have won a national championship, which is absolutely insane. And there is a path, by the way. Me and Chris talked about this. There is a path that next year there's only one active coach that has won a national championship. And that's only if Georgia obviously wins the championship this year. And then obviously Dabo steps down or I guess whatever from Clemson. We don't know. And then Mac Brown retires. So it would be crazy, if that happened. But, crazier things have happened. So we'll jump into some games. Obviously, we talked about Indiana, Western Illinois. Indiana looked like a surprise team maybe in the Big Ten this year.
I will say this. I mean, as far as like projections go, start the season, and I spend a lot of time looking at this. Indiana was projected to be probably the worst team or second worst team in the Big Ten as far as standings go this year to end the year. They're looking like a better team. I know they haven't played anybody. Everybody's going to give me the whole, who have they played, Chris? I get that. But Indiana hasn't looked bad offensively. Who's the head coach? He came over from what? James Madison or what?
Kurt Cignetti, I think is his name.
There you go. Done a pretty good job. Indiana's actually not a bad football team so far. I'm not. Yeah, Christian, I'm not coming on here saying they're a dark horse to win the Big Ten, but I think they're better than what people have expected so far, including us. So they've done a decent job.
No, I definitely agree with you. I think Indiana is going to surprise some people. I like Kirk Cignetti as a coach. I mean, he's been able to do a lot with less. I mean, he got JMU in a position to where they could have been an outside playoff team, I feel like, last year. And so obviously it could have been, right? But because they just jumped up, they couldn't do it because of whatever. They tried to petition. And I think the NCAA kind of settled and were like, all right, well, you play in a bowl game or some shit, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
It was interesting there, though. But yeah, looking at SMU versus BYU, that was a game that I think, did we both pick SMU in that one?
I don't remember. I know I can tell you this much. I bet on BYU and I took the 12 points last night and I watched the majority of this football game. BYU is better than what I thought they were going to be as far as Big 12 standings go, just like Indiana that you alluded to. SMU, who a lot of people, me included, thought dark horse, going to win maybe possibly potentially the ACC this year or compete for it. They kicked 5 field goals last night. They don't know which quarterback they're starting. They have some Jennings kid in there that's more of the run happy athletic quarterback. And then they have the kid that actually led them to 9 or 10 wins last year. I think it was 10 in Peyton Stone. He barely played. I don't know what SMU is doing, Christian, but it ain't good. This team barely beat what was it? Nevada the week before, who was a 2-win team the last 2 years. SMU isn't going anywhere this year, dude. Very disappointing. Hats off to BYU, though. Better program than I thought. They don't look too bad down there. They play tough, got a solid defense, got a lot of returning starters back defensively. But yeah, 5 field goals, dude. You don't see that in college football very often. No touchdown scored there out of SMU.
No, you do not, Chris. Yeah, that's if this was fantasy, take that kid immediately, get him on your team. But yeah, this to me speaks more about BYU is always one of those teams to me that they always will beat somebody they shouldn't every year, or they'll at least play really, really close, I feel like. So you can never count them out of any game, especially if you have to go to travel to play them in one of those late night kicks or whatever. It's a weird game. It's a weird environment. They're a tough team always, it seems like. Storm and Mormons, I like it. Duke at Northwestern, that was a what a game. That's all I'm going to say. What a game.
Both ugly game, both teams. Obviously Duke pulled it out in double overtime, but Northwestern had many chances in this game to put themselves up early in this game, especially in the first half, and just could not capitalize. Northwestern is I don't know how to say this. They're a tough team. They don't have a ton of talent, especially at offense. They're going to run the ball right, or they're going to run the ball left. Quarterback really can't throw the ball. Defense is solid, is what they are. But man, I don't know what to say about Duke in this one either, because Malik Murphy played okay. But Duke's kind of a 2-man show. It's Malik Murphy to, what's that kid's name? Jordan Moore, the receiver. He's pretty good. That's about it. But overall, this game was kind of sloppy. Two teams that I just don't think are very good.
No, it's the who gives a shit bowl of the season, I would say, thus far. But no, you're right. I mean, to me, I think this boils down to two things. Northwestern's another one of those teams that you throw in there that I would say is like the Illinois or the Rutgers or the whatever. Like last year, they had a phenomenal year, right? As you pointed out, they won like, what was it, nine games, something like that. They only won one game the year prior. We're not going to talk about that. But Northwestern, anytime there's ever any expectations on them, they shit the bed. And it doesn't really matter who's coaching them either, right? It's just they have a really good year and they kind of underperform. And they underperform even more. Then they have a really good year. And so Northwestern's a tough team. And like I said, I think that plays into it. I think them playing at a middle school soccer stadium right there on the on that lake over there in Chicago doesn't do them any favors either. I know home field advantage can play into it, but I mean, they're a team that's probably going to be searching for an identity for a little bit here. So, but you never know. I mean, the season's still young. I mean, you never know. But like you said, you can't just be, unless you're Michigan, you can't be that one-dimensional.
Yeah, it's just, when you watch Northwestern try to pass the ball. I mean, if Mike Wright is his name, he was 20 of 36 for 150 yards and one interception. Like this is the same song and dance every year with Northwestern. It's like, I told Christian before the show started, we were talking about, I said, I feel like I've been watching the same Northwestern program now for 25 years. Like I really do. And I'm not knocking Northwestern. I'm not, I don't think they've really overachieved some years. And then like Christian said it best, anytime you think that some sort of expectations put on them, God, they underachieve. They're such a roller coaster team every single year.
No, like Chris said it exactly right. It's such a roller coaster. I mean, by the way, do you meet a lot of Northwestern fans, Chris? You've been in the Big Ten for a while.
Actually, I know a couple over my time, but they're usually pretty humble people. One thing I'll say about Northwestern, you can't find a single Northwestern fan on the internet. I don't think they exist. But, they're also really smart people, too. So they probably don't, if you're anyone smart, you probably don't listen to this podcast. So, so no, I do know a few, but you don't see them very often.
You do not. That is exactly right. Well, let's jump into it, Chris. Hey, I will tell you this, right? I am not always a big fan of primetime big games being kicked at like 11 or 12 o'clock. This one I am in favor of, right? Michigan taking on Texas there at the Big House. Chris, has your mind changed at all leading up to this game? I know you said, hey, you think Texas is going to win, but you think Michigan's going to keep it close.
Yeah. So, with me being the degenerate gambler that I am, I have been back and forth on this game. I have. Normally, I'm not like this. You're right. I know you took Texas in a pretty big margin in this game, and that seems to be where the consensus is, right? Texas has just got too much offensively. Michigan went out, looked not very impressive against a Fresno State team. It depends on what you think of Fresno State. I'm in the realm of, I think Texas definitely wins this football game. I just think it's less than a touchdown. That's where I'm at, Christian. Michigan's got a 23-0 home winning streak right now. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and say that Michigan plays this game close. Christian, have you changed your thoughts at all on this game, or do you still think Texas in a landslide?
No, if anything, I've gone even more further towards Texas in this one. And let me ask you a question. I want to ask our fans. I want to ask you a question. I want to open this up for a discussion here. Chris, realistically, who has a better defense, in your opinion, Fresno State or Texas?
Texas.
I would agree with that, right? Michigan's not scoring more than 20 points in this game.
Okay.
Do you believe Texas will score more than 20 points in this game, Chris?
Barely. 24.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think you're sleeping on Michigan's defense, brother.
Well, I think Michigan's defense, I think they're a good defense. Like I'm not going to say who's it. Wink Martindale's the defensive coordinator over there, NFL guy. There's been a recent run on NFL coaches coming over to college football. But I think that the reality of it is, I do think Michigan's still good on defense, but and they lost so much on that side of the ball that it's like they have good pieces. Like who is it? Will Johnson and Mason Graham and everything like that. I think their backers are pretty decent, but Man, Texas can light it up, man. They have the athletes to expose them, I think. Don't have running backs, a whole lot of running backs anyways, but they got athletes.
No, I think here's my thing. This game goes one or two ways. And like I said, I might be totally wrong here. I'm not overly confident in this. Is that the only way Michigan stays in this game is if they can slow down Texas and make them one-dimensional, right? And what I mean by that is defensively, and then Michigan is going to have to keep and sustain long drives on offense to keep Ewers off the field, right? I'm with you, and I think you think this game is going to go this particular way. If Michigan cannot move the ball and you're giving Ewers chance after chance after chance, yes, this game will be a freaking blowout. I agree if it goes that route. I'm with you. I know it doesn't point that direction, but I think Michigan didn't show a lot, or at least I hope they didn't. I might look like a fool after this game, but I don't think they showed a ton against Fresno State. I do think they're going to find some success on the ground. I think Donovan Edwards gets going and they can kind of control the clock. Like I said, Texas is the better team. There's no doubt about that. It would shock me if Michigan pulled off the upset. It really would in this one. That would mean Texas really had to shit the bed offensively. But yeah, I get where you're going, Christian. I do. I'm not going to fight or argue over with anybody if you don't think Texas is going to roll in this game, because it could potentially happen. It could get out of hand quickly. Christian, what do you see happening? Maybe if Texas gets up 14-0, there ain't no way Michigan's coming back. Their offense ain't built like that. They weren't built like that last year.
No, they are not built like that. I think, like you said, most positions, almost all positions, they've downgraded, I would say, except for the running back position. But even still, you could say they downgraded because they lose Blake Corum. Mm-hmm. Michigan's not built that way. And if Texas gets out early in this one, Michigan can't sustain that. I want to ask one last question about this game, then we can move on. Tougher environment to play. I think this is actually an interesting discussion. It's kind of like our Ryan Day or segment that we have, which is, would you rather have Ryan Day or insert whatever coach, Billy Napier included? What's a tougher place to play at, Michigan or Alabama?
I don't know. I think you're grasping for straws on that one, man. I will say Michigan's, hasn't lost in over 3 years there. Alabama got beat last year by Texas. Texas could easily turn around and win at Michigan today. I don't know, man. I think those environments are both very tough to play. I do. What do you think? I guess I'm torn on that one.
That's such a hard one. I would say just from an environment alone, I would almost say, well, I don't know, man. I know a lot of Alabama fans. They get pretty raucous. I mean, Talladega, the racetrack is a pretty crazy freaking place if you ever go to the Talladega, race series there. But both, I feel like from just an atmosphere standpoint, Michigan's probably tougher. But I think just from a team standpoint, with Saban on the sideline, I feel like Bama probably made that environment a lot harder than what, it probably could have been. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think those are both two of the top 5 toughest places. So I can't argue that one way or another. If somebody says, yeah, I think it's Bama, like Joe McCorn said, or if you think it's the Big House. I mean, the Big House can hold the most people, but it doesn't always mean it's the loudest either. But yeah, I think both those places are super tough to play.
They said Texas A&M was number 1, but I think Notre Dame disclaimed that. Rudy was offsides.
Fuck the Texas A&M, man.
Penn State taking on Bowling Green. Bowling Green got any shot, Chris?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Penn State looked really, really good, dominant over a West Virginia team last week. They did what they needed to do. Looked a lot better, and I thought they were going to even look. No.
Good. Then we get into a slate of probably 3 or 4 games here that, are kicking off around the same time. Arkansas at Oklahoma State. Chris, Oklahoma State, top 16, top, 17 team in the country, arguably. Arkansas, we know with the Bobby Petrino return, neck brace and all, put up a 70 burger last week, whatever it was. I mean, you buying into this game? You giving Arkansas a shot in this one?
I am. I'm giving Arkansas a shot. Now, I said Oklahoma State was going to win the game. They're getting about 10 points last I looked, maybe 10.5 here. I did take the points with the Arkansas. Christian, the reason why, and I want you to tell me if I'm right or wrong, or give me your opinion here, which I'm sure you will. Arkansas has a lot to play for this season, dude. I mean, I think you would agree with that, right? Sam Pittman on the hot seat. Potential, his coach is right there at OC. I think Bobby Petrino probably would fill in for him if they were to can Pittman and give that New opportunity again to Bobby Petrino, who coached there at one time. But do you see Arkansas hanging around in this one a little bit, Christian? I mean, I'm not saying necessarily pull off the upset, but or do you just see Oklahoma State just being too good under Gundy and Ollie Gordon and just too much for them?
No, I mean, Oklahoma State's a tough place to play too. It's an 11 a.m. kickoff early in the season here. To me, it's got a Big 12 feel to it, right? It just has that Big 12 kind of feel to this game, I would say. And to me, what this game really comes down to is going to be Oklahoma State's quarterback, Alan Bowman. When he plays in this game, can he, okay, this is the question. If Arkansas can shut down Ollie Gordon, which is easier said than done, can he rise to the occasion and can he pick apart Arkansas? You know what I mean? That's the question. Because Arkansas, remember now, Arkansas has a little bit of a defense, right? Mm-hmm. Not as worried. I mean, they've improved, I would say, on the defensive side of the ball over the years with Pittman, but can he rise to that occasion? Can he win you this game? That's what this to me really boils down to.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that statement. I also say like the offense. What's the quarterback? Is it Tyler Green? Is that his name? The quarterback at Arkansas. He did look good in week one. I know it was week one against the nobody essentially, and they put up some points. I think if Arkansas can move the ball, because what I will say is I don't think Oklahoma State's defense is elite. I think they're good. If Arkansas can keep up and score some points in this one, they're going to be in this game. I also think Arkansas just has a ton to play for this year. I do. I really do before they get into that brutal SEC schedule.
No, I agree too. I mean, Arkansas's got a lot on the line, Chris, like you said. Kind of an under the rug game here. Kansas State at Tulane. Kansas State, was a team that I took a lot of shit for. Chris, you were really high on them coming into this year. Kansas State's a team I took a lot of shit for. I'm like, I like Avery Johnson. I think he's a good quarterback, but they're also replacing a lot of pieces in this team. And I wouldn't shock me if they struggled a little bit in this year. And they didn't look all that great against UT Martin, who probably is a top 25 FCS school or some shit I don't even know. But for a bit, the final score to me was a lot worse than what I think that game actually was, for about 3 quarters there, 2.5 quarters. Tulane, they're a team that, they lose a lot of pieces. Willie Fritz, they lose their quarterback that they had around there forever. His name escapes me at this time, but Tulane can, Tulane's still a tough program, I think.
Yeah, I haven't bet this game yet because K-State's favored by about 10 points here, same as the Oklahoma State game. I do think K-State wins this football game, but Tulane has beaten them a couple times now. They met a couple years ago. That was a really good Tulane team that I think made a New Year's Six bowl that year. They beat USC. Is that right? In that bowl game or whatever when Caleb Williams was there. Now that whole team is gone. I get that. I think K-State, I'm still going to ride with K-State. Like you said, I'm very high on them this year. I think they get the win here. I do think it's a relatively close game though. Tulane's not an easy place to play when it comes to a non-con school. They're a pretty good program there. No Michael Pratt anymore for Tulane, so it'll be interesting to see how they can move the ball in this one. But I do think it'll be a good football game. But give me K-State here. I got to stick with them.
Okay. I like K-State as well in that one. Georgia Tech at Syracuse. This is the most underrated game, I think, coming into this one, right? Georgia Tech, top 25 team now. They got a little swagger to them. There's some expectations, obviously. But you got to travel and take on Syracuse. This is Syracuse, an underrated team. Now, Chris, I'm going to give you my thoughts. I think Syracuse pulls off an upset here.
I agree, too. I'm taking Syracuse and money line today. I think, Christian, I know me and you had talked about this several times, and I don't think a lot of people were paying attention. We talked about Kyle McCord. Me and you both agreed he wasn't necessarily the problem at Ohio State last year. He wasn't. The kid's only lost one game. He put 24 points up on Michigan, that vaunted number 1 defense last year. I don't think it was all his problem. I'm with you today. I think Georgia Tech. Okay, Chris, I want to ask and the fans this and some other people in the chat here. Is Georgia Tech really that good? Or how do we evaluate Florida State and all this? Or is Florida State just not a very good football? I mean, Christian, answer that question for me, please. Or what's your thoughts?
I think it just boils down to confidence. I think that they didn't have any confidence in that game in Ireland. They overlooked Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech exposed them. They went into that game. Florida State did against Boston College, and they're They're a team that you can see. They don't have any confidence. They just don't look like they even really want to be there, when they're playing right now, man. And they've lost their confidence. Now, on the other side, confidence is a two-way streak, right? Georgia Tech's got some confidence right now. Syracuse is the underdog, and I think that's what – like Georgia Tech has been a bad program for so long at this point. The whole Jeff Collins years, Brent Key took over. He kind of injected some juice and some life to him over the last year and a half, and even this start to this season. But Georgia Tech's not used to being like the dogs. You know what I mean? They're not used to being favored, I would say, in a lot of games. So to me, I think the pressure's on Georgia Tech. Syracuse first year coach out there, and Fran Brown. They don't have any pressure on them. Kyle McCord. The expectations are so much less at Syracuse compared to Ohio State.
Yeah, and he did play really well last week. I think Haynes King's going to turn the ball over a couple times in this one, and Syracuse is going to pull off the upset. I'm just on that. I've been on that all week with this game. I'm with you. I think Georgia Tech is better than what we thought. I don't think they're as great as maybe everybody thinks they are, because that win over Florida State, I don't know what you value that is. It was a great win for Georgia Tech, yes, in the program. But as we've seen, Florida State's just not a very good football team. They're just not this year. And I think Syracuse is one of those kind of sleeper teams. Somebody's got to rise up to the occasion in the ACC other than Miami. Somebody's got to do it.
Minnesota taking on Rhode Island. The only reason why I want to talk about this game, I just saw where it's being broadcast at. First of all, college football, get your shit together, okay? I don't want to have 17 different streaming platforms. I have no interest in watching a game on Peacock. It disrupts the flow of things, and I can't fucking stand it. You know what I mean? It ruins the whole thing for me, and I'm not with it.
I would agree with that. It is getting old. I will not be watching that game today. Minnesota should win that one, I'd hope.
Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. I mean, that's an interesting one too, but I feel like it's two programs that, like, if this game was played 3 years ago, a couple years ago during the Kenny Pickett, Luke Fickell era there, like if you would have had Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ritter, that kind of matchup, that would have been a really interesting one. This one doesn't really intrigue me, I feel like, Chris.
Yeah, coin flip game. Both teams not very good, really. I got no interest in betting that game or even touching that game. I will not even be watching that game. But yeah, you said it best. If this was four years ago, yeah, absolutely.
Chris, are you a supporter of our troops?
Are you talking about A&M here? Is this where you're going down this thing, or what do you do? Oh, you're talking about your Army. Can they pull the upset off? I think you know what, man? Fuck it. Yeah, let's go Army today, man. Let's give it the Army money line. I think they're like they're 2-point dogs currently. So, yeah, give me Army in this one.
You got to travel and play at Florida Atlantic in the heat of the day down there in Florida. I don't know, man. That's a different beast there. FAU, they got Tom Herman, the Tom Herman experiment going on there. So I don't know, man. I was in the Army, so I guess I can actually say that. Stolen valor is what I'll claim here for Army in this one. I think FAU pulls the up, or I don't even know if it's an upset or whatever you want to call it, but I think FAU rolls. Yeah. Speaking of stolen valor, yeah, like you said, Texas A&M. Anyways.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of these A&M should roll McNeese. If I'm A&M, I will say this about that game. I'm going to find another quarterback, and I'm going to try to play him going forward, and I would start that right now.
Yeah, the whole Connor Weigman experience, I've seen enough.
Yeah. Georgia, Tennessee Tech, come on now, son. I would say we'll get into the Iowa game here in just a minute, but Baylor at Utah, I mean, this is another one where, okay, it's the first game that Utah is actually playing somebody this year. Right? Cam Rising coming back. And I say somebody, right? Just because it's Baylor and they're up or down. They're an up and down program too. This has got to have a game for Dave Aranda, right? Like it feels like if he can figure out a way to make this game close, or if he could somehow pull the upset here, that might get some confidence back in this program. Because right now, Aranda is on the hottest of hot seats, right?
Yeah, it's not happening today. Utah's defense is still elite. The fact that it's played at Utah, not going to help Baylor out here. I think Utah right now currently is like a 15-point favorite. I see Utah covering that today. I do. I just think Utah's too good. They're not my dark horse, but my favorite on to win the Big 12 this year. I'm with you with Baylor though. They got to get it turned around. They're going to have some games coming up here where they need to win. Houston, West Virginia, teams like that where they need to show up and show out. Otherwise, yeah, Dave Aranda will not have a job at the end of the year. I'm with you there. But I don't think it happens today, man. If they could play them close, I'd be even surprised, to be honest with you. Baylor's been pretty bad, Christian, the last couple of years.
They've been pretty bad. So all the pressure on Baylor there. I think Utah rolls. Iowa State at Iowa. I want to hear your thoughts, Chris.
Give me Iowa State today, man. I know. Everybody's taking Iowa. I seen the guys in the chat talking about it as well. Obviously, I think it's going to be a relatively low-scoring game. This game is always close, and you can throw the records out the window. They seem to usually play each other pretty tight. I'm taking Iowa State today. I know Iowa State looked like total dog dookie last week, but I really wasn't much that impressed with Iowa either. Obviously the second half they scored 40 points, and it was the first time in like literally a decade they scored 40 points in a game. I get all that. But give me Iowa State in the upset today, man. I know, Christian, are you on board, or are you going to roll with you're rolling with your Hawkeyes? I know you are.
Chris, were you a big fan of wrestling back in the day?
Like WWE or what?
Yeah, WWE.
Hell yeah, dude.
Are you familiar with a character called The Undertaker?
Absolutely.
You know, how he'd rise from the dead. And that's what I think Kirk Ferentz is going to do just for this game, right? Yeah, he's going to come back from that one game suspension. It's going to be a typical Iowa State game, right? I think it's going to be very low scoring games at, Kinnick Stadium.
Okay.
Just go ahead and name it Kinnick-Ferentz Stadium at this point, because the guy's been there for 37 years or whatever it's been. But in all honesty, no, I think Iowa wins this game. I think Iowa, they found something. Again, it wasn't against a great school last week. It was an FCS school that they were able to figure it out against, Illinois State or whatever the hell it was. So, but Iowa did find something on offense eventually.
Yeah, I look. It's not because I'm a Nebraska fan, so I have to hate Iowa. But I'm telling you, man, I think Iowa State's going to shock them today, man. That's my upset. It's my upset of the day, man. Whole Cyclones, baby. Let's go.
Whole Cyclones. Look at a little Kentucky taking on South Carolina here. Give me Kentucky in this one all day. I think South Carolina looked like both games, I think, were affected by weather delays. Kentucky called theirs at the third quarter, last week. But nah, man, I think I'm more sold on Vandergrift than I am on who's it? Sellers? Is that the quarterback for
Lenore Sellers, dude? And he looked terrible. The South Carolina man is going to tell you right now that he is grade A trash, and everybody thinks that Beamer needs to be fired as well. So I'm on Kentucky today. I liked what was it Brock Vandergrift, your guys' backup quarterback last year, looked like. I thought he looked really good. I like Kentucky by quite a few today. South Carolina is headed in the wrong direction, man. I think they are, and I hate to say that because the season just started.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I agree. Michigan State taking on Maryland at Maryland. This is going to be this is the first Big Ten game of the year.
Yeah, and I got to lean Maryland here. I watched Michigan State week 1 against Florida Atlantic. They look like a new team trying to rebuild, honestly. Their defense looks solid. I could see this game being close for a while, but Childs has got to play better, Christian. I mean, he was a 5-star kid. Jonathan Smith, I think he's still a good coach. I just think it's going to take some time at Michigan State, man. I really do.
I agree. Maryland looked like the better program week 1, so Michigan State is obviously going to have to make some improvements. I think they will look a little better coming into this game.
Right.
But I think Maryland rolls. Mike Locksley is always a tough coach to go up against, and especially Maryland at home is not an easy environment for whatever reason. Maybe it's the food poisoning you get from those crab cakes or some shit. I don't know. We'll talk about this one. Wisconsin taking on South Dakota. Now, Wisconsin didn't look all that great in their season opener, but this one to me is a get right spot for Tyler Van Dyke, and he needs to flash and show something before they go take on Bama next week.
No, I agree. Seth in the chat probably can tell us a little more about this game, but I'm with you. I'm still sold on Luke Fickell in Wisconsin this year. I know they got a brutal schedule. They got a big game against Bama next week. Tyler Van Dyke needs to get it going though, and I expect Wisconsin to come out and and win handily today. I really do. Man.
Marshall at Virginia Tech, Chris, on the CW network, by the way.
Yeah.
Listen, we were so low on Virginia Tech. I mean, this is a get right spot for Virginia Tech. Potential clipping here, right? Maybe if you're Marshall looking to take them on.
God, Vatek needs to win this game and handily if they still want to play for an ACC title. I mean, that's all it comes down to. They're not out of it yet because of the Vandy being an SEC school last week, but they looked terrible in that football game. For a team that returned the most production in college football at 92%, Brett Pry, is that his name? They need to get it together over there today. And I think Virginia Tech does. I don't see an upset. I know I said that about Boston College, Florida State. Made me look like I'm on the spectrum. So maybe I'll be wrong today.
We'll talk about this game here. South Florida, taking on Alabama at Alabama. Last year, we kind of touched on this a litrow bit. Obviously, Milroe didn't play in that game. Alabama struggled to move the ball in that one. South Florida came up, made some plays. I thought the weather delay kind of made an interesting element of it last year. I think Bama rolls the shit out of them this year.
Yeah, give me Bama by 30.
But I will say this: the one thing I'm going to look for in this game, right, is South Florida put up some points last year, right? Their coach was Alex Grinch, I believe, former Tennessee coordinator. Came from that Heupel tree, came from that veer and shoot kind of style of offense.
It was really low scoring, though, wasn't it? Too, though, because with the rain and the monsoon they were playing in. But I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you here. Yeah, I'm with you though. Bama rolls today. I'll be shocked if South Florida is even within 4 scores. I really will.
Well, the thing I'm looking for, South Florida, can they? I'm not sold on Bama's defense yet, right?
Okay.
We saw one week they look good, but I'll be honest too. Western Kentucky, that quarterback kept throwing the ball literally to the Alabama player. I mean, like he literally was like he could have just walked over and handed it to him. It wasn't even like, oh my god.
No, I agree. That wasn't Western Kentucky. I mean, you want to talk about a trash can of a football team? Yeah, that was really poor showing. I know Alabama's good, but yeah, they made them look even better with that. Yeah, no, I'm with you there, 100%.
Kansas taking on Illinois here in this game. This to me is two schools that Kansas I think overshot the moon again last year, right? They had a decent season, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Lance Leopold probably going to be coaching somewhere big next year after what he's done at Kansas the last 2 seasons. Yes, they won 8 or 9 games last year.
Illinois, to me, was like a dark horse last year, that could have pulled an upset on somebody, I thought, going into it. And they kind of shit the bed last year. But I think Altmaier and, like we said, Bielema, I think they're figuring it out, right? So which way are you leaning in this one, Chris?
I'm leaning Kansas here. I think Daniels and Devin Neal, the running back, too much for Illinois today. I bet on this game last year. I remember I taken Illinois, as you said, and they got crapped on. So I'm still stuck on Kansas winning this football game. I'm pretty high on Kansas this year. Give me Kansas in this one. I do think this is a close game, though. I'm with you. It depends on if Illinois shows up with a defense. 2 years ago, they had the number 1 defense in the country. Last year, as you alluded to, a lot of people thought Illinois was going to be kind of a dark horse, decent Big Ten team. Ended up being terrible. I mean, they could stop a nosebleed. So Bielema gets that together. They'll be in this game 100%.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Illinois. Just because I think they're improved on offense this year. I think they can maybe keep pace with the Kansas. So yeah, I'm going to try to lean a little more Illinois in this one. So
okay,
always, however you say that. Sanford at Florida. There's only really one interest in this game, and that's DJ Lagway, I think, and seeing what he can be.
Yeah, Florida's got to go out and dominate this game. That's all. I felt like I've talked about Florida enough from last weekend. As me and Christian Herbie don't know nothing about football, and then Miami goes in and just stomps their dicks in the dirt. So Florida man is on suicide alert. We see see our boy in here today, Christian. He's in a hospital somewhere. But I think Florida's got a roll today. Better roll today.
Till they rehire Dan Mullen, I don't think we'll see him again. So it's okay.
It's true. That'll happen.
The FCS powerhouse that is a pretty much dark horse. They're better than Georgia. Chattanooga taking on Georgia State in what would be the game of the day, I would say.
Yeah, Chattanooga by at least 4 touchdowns. Easy. And don't you ever call them a middle school again either.
Did you ever call them a middle school? Yeah, you got to start going. You either got to go elementary school or high school, Chris.
I could have been a lot worse what I could have said. I thought I went pretty easy on it, but boy, the Tennessee man let me know that Chattanooga is a top 10 FCS school, and they celebrated that 69-3 victory like it was 1998.
Did they ever? We'll get to this here in a minute. I'll get to this here in a minute. I said something last night that I never thought I would say, but whatever. Georgia Southern at Nevada. I want to talk about this one. This one has a good impact to me. Georgia Southern hung around, with Boise State in that first game. Now the game was obviously at home. They got to travel out there to the West Coast and play Nevada. Nevada actually, they hung around with SMU, but as we've come to figure out, I don't think SMU is what we thought they were. So I like Georgia Southern in it, man. I like Georgia Southern.
Yeah, they're favored to win by 1 right now. So yeah, I'm with you. Nevada, yeah, you're right. They played SMU super tough. But I think I like Georgia Southern in that one as well.
Yeah, in the old Nga Stadium out there. So be sure to tune into that one. Yeah, I'll get to this one right here. Tennessee taking on NC State. I have a lot of people I know. We moved from Nashville, that area, up here to the Midwest, and I was talking to one of my buddies last night, and he's a huge Tennessee fan. But he's actually a realist when it comes to that. Like, he made comments to me last year, like, Milton can throw the ball 100 yards down the field, but can't hit the broadside of a barn 5 yards in front of him. Mm-hmm. And he's really realistic with it. So as we were getting off the phone last night, he said, and remember, go Vols. And I'm like, well, we're not playing this week, so what the hell ever, go Vols. But yeah, no, I like Tennessee in this one. The game is at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. They could play this game, like Chris likes to say, on the moon. They could play it in Brazil in that sloppy ass stadium with the announcers being, soccer announcers, whatever the hell you want to say. I don't think it would matter. I think Tennessee is going to roll here.
I do too. We did a prediction video on this. The Tennessee man was upset at us that we even, didn't think Tennessee was going to win, 100-0 in this game. But no, I'm with you. I think Tennessee goes out and makes a statement. Like I said, Nico looks great. The defense front seven for Tennessee is pretty damn good. NC State did not look very good against a team called Western Carolina the week before. Yeah, I like Tennessee, and Children of the Corn said best. I like them by a couple touchdowns here. I do. I think Tennessee comes out and makes a statement today. They're my dark horse for the SEC this year. I think they get it done. So give me the Vols.
Everybody's primetime matchup tonight at 6:30. Alcorn State taking on Vanderbilt. No, I'm sorry about that. Colorado taking on Nebraska. Chris, this is the one that I think a lot of people are talking about. This is all eyes are going to be on this. You got the Dion year 2 experiment going on at Colorado. On the other side of it, you got Matt Rule year 2 over there with Dylan Raiola. So this is a really marquee game, I would say, going into this. It was a marquee game last year. I thought it was the first game that we were really going to get a test to see what these schools really were. And yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on it from the Nebraska side?
Must-win game for Matt Rule and the Huskers today. I know that term gets thrown around a lot, must win, but this is for the state of Nebraska, for the recruiting, for Matt Rule's future. This is a big game today. Look, as much as I like to shit on Colorado, it's no secret here. I hate Colorado with a passion, but Colorado's going to be in this game. Even if Nebraska does get up, I mentioned this on my betting video, that if Nebraska gets up 17-3, 14-0, you can't count Colorado out. They're one of the very few teams in the country that can score a lot of points in a hurry with that electric offense. But I think the fact that Nebraska, if they can control the clock, and that would mean winning lines of scrimmage, which they should be able to do. I think most people would agree with that with the brain. This game shouldn't be close today. I mean, it should be a 10, 14-point win for Nebraska if they can control the clock, not turn the ball over, keep the penalties at a minimum. If anybody remembers last year, everybody wants to keep bringing up last year. Nebraska was a totally different offensive team last year. Jeff Sims had, 4 turnovers in that game, put us in really terrible spots for our defense last year. And yes, Colorado beat the shit out of us 36-14. Whole different story this year. Nebraska should be able to run the football, Christian, control the line of scrimmage. They're going to be fine in this one. Will Colorado score some points? Absolutely. They're going to. Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, you can't just shut those guys down. I mean, they're going to put up some points. But what Nebraska does offensively is going to be huge in this game, controlling the clock, keeping Shedeur off the field. And I hope that happens. I see it going that way. I still think this game is going to be close. I do till the fourth quarter. It just seems like the way this history has been between these two programs the last couple decades. But give me Nebraska in this one, Christian. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so a couple things here. So you have a true freshman in Dylan Raiola. This is his first real taste of college football, I would say. Yeah, he played last week at UTEP and he looked really good. It was at home. Everybody, hyped him up. And I thought he did a really good job last week, right? He made some throws that made you say, wow. He made decisions that made you say, wow. He looked like Patrick Mahomes 2.0 out there. Which is great. The defense bent, but they didn't break. And they shut down UTEP. They only had one mistake, I thought, in that game for Nebraska. On the flip side of it, for Colorado, like you said, I saw Shedeur Sanders do things when he got, and this is the main thing I want to talk about here. That offensive line did not hold up for him against North Dakota State. And I understand North Dakota State is a good program. But really, to me, what it boils down to is if you plop North Dakota State in the FBS right now, where would you really rank them? They'd be a middle of the pack school. They beat some schools, but they wouldn't be Georgia or frickin' Texas or whatever you want to say. They would get ran off the road by those schools. Clemson would probably embarrass the shit out of them, for that matter.
Yeah.
So I think with that, putting that all into context, like North Dakota State manhandled them up front in that offensive line. Shedeur Sanders was taking hits all night long. Here's what I can tell you. Nebraska has probably two of the best defensive tackles in, was it Hutchmacher and then
Robinson.
Who's the other one? Robinson. Yeah, Ty Robinson. In the country. You know what I mean? So they should probably, especially interiorly, make Shedeur's life a living hell. I think, to me, in this game, Chris, like we said, the thing about Shedeur Sanders that I respect the most is when things don't go well, he makes things happen. I watched him get hit literally just on a, drop back throw where he was getting hit. And, it looked like so many other quarterbacks would have thrown an interception in that spot. He didn't. He did not. So to me, he can ball out. He can still make things happen. Nebraska in this game, like you said, Chris, they need to run the ball down Colorado's throat, control that clock, make life easier for Dylan Raiola. And on the flip side of the football, they're going to have to get Shedeur Sanders off his mark. They're going to have to be able to contain him, keep him in the pocket, don't let him escape, and hold up in coverage. And the problem that I can potentially see for Nebraska in this one, Chris, is Colorado is one of those teams where even if you're covered, they're not covered. Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn, DeJounte Wester, they are guys that can make spectacular plays and they can make you miss in a phone booth. So Nebraska's going to have to hold up in coverage in this one if things break down.
Yeah, I will say this to add to this game. I was looking through some of the film, even on UTEP, just recently here. I noticed, Nebraska only had one sack in that game. And then I realized after watching about 5 minutes of it, they never blitzed one single time. Nebraska didn't show much with UTEP. And they shouldn't have had to. I mean, it was UTEP for the love of God. So I expect Nebraska last year, I think, had 8 sacks on Shedeur. I expect them to bring pressure early and often in this game. And I say this again because I feel like I hate on Colorado, but Shedeur Sanders, I will say this about the kid. Say what you want, but he's a tough son of a bitch. That kid gets his head taken off. It gets folded up like a Dollar General lawn chair half the time, gets right back off the field or gets up off the turf, and he'll deliver a strike. So like I said, it's going to be a good football game today. A lot riding on this for both programs, both coaches, but I want to leave it with this, man. Give me Nebraska, man. I really, truly think with this being at home, it's going to be a loud environment there tonight. Fans don't like each other, both sides. Give me the Huskers, man. Huskers are the more physical team. Shedeur's probably the better quarterback, obviously, but give me the better coach in Matt Rule in this one.
Yeah, I'll lean with you on that one, Chris. I think that give me Nebraska in this one. I think Nebraska wins it. This is the rebirth of Nebraska football starting tonight.
Love it.
Yeah, I want to talk about this one here. App State taking on Clemson on the road. This is a get right spot for Clemson after what Georgia did to them in the first game of the year.
Any shot App State could pull off a crazy upset here. They're no stranger to doing this kind of stuff. But do you think it happens at all today, Christian? Is there a chance?
Yeah, I would say so. And it's just because Clemson offensively, they got to figure something out. Now, I know Georgia suffocated them. They didn't break. Clemson kind of moved the ball at times, but outside of a few explosive plays, I mean, they really stuffed them. Me, if App State, and this is a lot easier said than done, and I realize that, if App State can kind of control Maffa in this one and kind of shut that down and probably load the box up on them, App State's got a shot. Remember, they got a quarterback over there in Joey Aguilar who's played some football. So he's used to playing some football, man. Clemson in a get-right spot. Clemson is in a get-right spot, and we talk about this a lot on the show. It's such a big thing, confidence, right? Georgia, it would be really easy for Clemson to come out here and shit the bed, kind of like we saw Florida State did. If that happens, I'm telling you right now, if that happens, the ACC will be in free fall.
I don't have much more to add to that. I think Clemson wins today. I do. I think this game is close for a while, though. App State is not a pushover by any means. They're no stranger, like I said, to playing big name teams and knocking them off. They've done it before. But yeah, no, Clemson needs to go out and play well, because if Clemson doesn't play well, even if they win and don't play well in this game, man, you're right. The ACC has looked like total dog shit outside of Miami for the most part. Yeah, the ACC is going to be wide open here in a minute, and things aren't going to be good for Dabo and Clemson. He took a lot of shit for the post-game, conference that it took place after the Georgia game, the absolute ass whooping Georgia put on them in the second half. I would think, Christian, with this game being at home for Clemson, they go out and dominate today. I would think that's the mindset.
Yeah, I agree with you. Speaking of dominating or not dominating, Oregon taking on Boise State at home here, Chris. We know what Oregon looked like against Idaho. They didn't look very good. And but I think you've talked about this. You think Oregon, this is a get right spot for them. You think that they're going to come out, they're going to ball out, they're going to embarrass Boise State in this one.
I do. I think I got to give Dan Lanning more than one terrible game against Idaho. I know that was a weird game if you look at the stats. We had talked about it, but I do think, and I don't think Boise State's a bad team. That's not what I'm saying here. But let's be honest here. Oregon is one of the odds-on favorites to win the Big Ten and the national title this year. I think they go out and they play a physical style football and put the ball in the end zone a ton today. I do. I see Oregon scoring close to 40 points in this one.
Yeah, we're going to find out a lot about Oregon in this one. We're going to I think all the pressure's on Oregon. We're 7 team in the country. A lot of people have them, pegged as national champion picks. The pressure is on Oregon and Dan Lanning in this one. Boise State, I know, can put up some points, and they can kind of hang in this one. I think it's a close game, actually. I could see an upset. I could see Boise State taking an upset here. But at the same time, I think Oregon is in a get-right spot. I think they take care of business, and I think they win the game.
Okay.
Looking here at Mississippi State taking on Arizona State. Mississippi State probably going to be one of the worst teams in the SEC this year. In my opinion, right? So that's yet to be seen. But Arizona State, they're not an easy team to play. I would say that, right? Especially at home at a 9:30 kickoff. So what are your thoughts, Chris? Who you got in this one? I know these are two programs that are really swept under the rug in college football right now.
Yeah, I know, man, I'm just not high on Arizona State at all. I like to say Mississippi State wins this one. I know that's crazy because I know Arizona State's favored, and they looked actually decent week one. But I got to roll with the bottom tier SEC school here, man. Vandy did it against Vatech. Give me Mississippi State in this one. Screw it.
Like Arizona State in this one, son. I know I got to do my SEC dirty on it, but I can't see it.
All right.
Utah State taking on USC, 10 o'clock kickoff, a game that I'm sure both of us will stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning to watch.
100%.
I like USC, dude. I think USC is going to roll. I think Miller Moss is going to come out and ball out. He should be out by halftime.
Yeah, I got to take USC in this one. They looked really impressive against LSU last week. I love the way Miller Moss looked. I like the way the defense looked a lot better as well. So, yeah, USC landslide.
All right, Chris, we got about 40 minutes or so before first kick here. So what are you guys excited about as we get ready to jump into another day of college football, man? That's what we're talking about over here at the
I like the my comment. Interesting stat. Michigan is 12-3 at home with game day. Texas is 1-4.
Do you think that plays? Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think that plays into this at all? Do you think the game day curse is going to play into that?
I don't believe in trends really too much, especially when it comes to betting and stuff. But obviously, I do. Like I said, I think this game is going to be close. I know I'm dying on this hill up here, but a lot of people think I'm insane for saying that, Michigan's going to play in this game with them. But that's a very interesting stat, though. It doesn't look good for Texas for sure, but we're going to find out here in 40 minutes, though. I really, truly think the first quarter of this game, you're going to know right away, okay, Michigan's actually for real. They're better than what we thought they were going to be offensively, or Texas just comes out and freaking scores in a hurry. And if Texas wins this game like you think they're going to, Christian, we're going to hear a lot of talk about Texas being one of the best teams in the country this year up there with Georgia.
No, I 100% agree. I mean, it's all going to build towards that, that showdown that will inevitably happen, right? Georgia has to go on the road down the road in the season and play Texas. So that'll be an interesting one. You're exactly right. I don't know. I mean, like I said, the game day thing to me, it's meant to be broken, right? That's the thing of it. I mean, like you said, I don't know. They always say the pressure is on. To me, Michigan's got the most pressure on them right now.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Texas got a lot of pressure too. If they can't go in and beat Michigan at home, and a lot of people don't think Michigan's obviously the team that they were last year. What's that say for Texas this season? I mean, like, Texas has got national title hopes. I mean, this is a team that made the Final Four last year, brought back about a majority of that offense. I shouldn't say a majority of it, but Quinn Ewers at quarterback, obviously. I think it's both teams here. I really do. Both teams, because Michigan has a lot riding on them too, right? I mean, they haven't lost at home in 3 years. Everybody has been making fun of them this offseason that they're, Michigan's fallen off a map, all that. They got something to prove today. I could I guess if I had to answer that question, I'd probably put it both ways. I think both of them have a lot of pressure on them.
Yeah, I agree. I think, like you said, I think both of them have a lot of pressure on them. So, well, Chris, I think this is a good wrapping up spot here. This is the week 2 Saturday show. Again, we're going to try to get all the breakdowns put out for you guys on Monday night for next week's games. I hope it's a great Saturday for everybody. Like I said, hope everybody wins a lot of money if they're betting. If everybody has a great Saturday, get you some good food, get you some good drink, whatever have you. And Chris, any closing thoughts here?
No, thanks for the people that showed up. Appreciate it. Like I said, be safe out there, Nebraska fans. Let's go Huskers tonight. Let's get this win, dude. And like I said, appreciate everybody coming out and supporting us over here on the channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Go Big Red. If you know any Florida fans, keep them in your thoughts and prayers. We'll catch you